All right, according to my stream, we are live. So I want to welcome everybody to the live stream tonight. This is the 2021 season, episode 4, and it's part of the playlist of the 2021 Sooners football playlist. Just a reminder, guys, my opinions are my own. The reason I have to add that is I work at a certain place, and I just want to make sure these are my opinions. So tonight we're again joined by Sean, Gavin, and we are being gracious. We are being joined graciously by our great 2019 number one Sooner fan, aka my dad as well. So how's everybody doing tonight?
Good. My opinions reflect where you work and where you will work in the future. Just want to put that out there as well.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And I have no opinion.
Yeah, I just want to put out for the record that my opinions are my own. It does not reflect where I also work as well. So.
Perfect. I had that thought at work, and my boss was like, go ask HR. I'm like, this will just cover the bases and everything like that. Sean, I just want to let you know, Dad already said that I better take care of this flag right behind here. He doesn't want any holes in it or anything.
I mean, it's good that he's looking out for my best interests and everything. So,
yeah. Same for me too. Especially with that Bob Stoops signature right behind you.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
Bob with this big ass signature, and now he's weaseling in on my YouTube stuff, and it's just getting out of control.
That's what happens when
Bob trying to take my subs and views now. Can't have that.
For every 5 subs he gives out free tequila.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
He better. So I wanted to really, before we got into the kind of the asking dad questions here about like the old days and some of the games and traditions, I just wanted to kind of recap really past the past couple of things we saw. Sean, you saw it first, and I just wanted to highlight it. Of that catch, I believe it was by Marcus Major and Two-A-Days, was beautiful. Was it Marcus Major who made the catch?
You're thinking of 5-star freshman Mario Williams.
Mario. Why do I have
Marcus Major's practicing, but he may not be playing. So let's just keep that. That's a to be determined. So we'll figure that out later. But no. Listen. We need to. I'm really worried about the official OU football Twitter account, because at some point it's gonna get flagged down for posting all that that football pornography that they're posting right now with all those amazing catches that those players are making. It's just where we were a year ago, because the first practice or two a year ago was not good. Like, it was a bad precedent. It was a bad start because guys were getting hurt. Everyone was out of shape because they didn't have off-season workouts for some guys. And, the whole world was turned upside down last year. And so now it's like you're hearing everyone's healthy. Knock on wood, everyone's healthy. And just, it's nothing but positive vibes. Now, is there a little sunshine pumping? Of course, every football team gets that. But when you're picked to make the playoff and make a serious run at it, and all you're hearing is defense is good, the receivers look good, Spencer Rattler is looking better than ever. Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray are your 1 and 1A at running back. It doesn't matter who starts or gets the first carry. You're just. Why is it only August 8th? I'm ready to go.
I mean, they're the closest they've been since 2017. If you're really wanting to reach back to 2008, but I think they're going to make a run for it. They are absolutely going to make a run for it. I don't see any game on the schedule that they would lose at. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I can just say this right now. It's like there's barely any holes I can see from a whole team perspective. I mean, this is probably going to be like one of the most complete teams in the country, because, like, if you look at like some of the other teams, like like Alabama, they're basically rebuilding right now. After losing their three-headed monster right there. But of course, Alabama is going to basically reload for the most part. So they're always going to be in contention. I think Ohio State, they got some questions at quarterback and linebacker though too. So that's going to be very interesting to really see about that. And then
Gavin, what do you talk about? Like a high school senior skipped his senior year. He's already there. The big QB is already on campus, so they're good to go.
He's already September Heisman.
Yeah, they're all set.
Yeah. So, but like I said though too, high school ball is one thing, but playing college, you know how that differs though too. So it's going to take a little while though too from going from that to college. So, but he's probably going to be redshirt if I assume or anything, or he might start. So we'll see about that.
I think, Sean, you're the one who mentioned with OU that Grinch is wanting to do rotations now. We may actually have the depth to be able to do those rotations, barring if they're good.
Well, he's been doing rotations, but there's certain spots he just couldn't afford to, like safety. He could not put fresh safeties out there because our two mainstays, Pat Fields and Darren Turner-Yell, were all those are the only two guys he trusted.
Right.
Now, I haven't heard anything concrete. I mean, obviously, Keyshawn Lawrence is like a big, name everyone's looking for. Still waiting on Bryson Washington to hear what kind of noise he's making. But, I mean, defensive backfield, we apparently have a battle at nickel. Like, who's better? Is it Jeremiah Cradell? Is it Billy Bowman, the freshman? And what can he offer? I mean, could Billy Bowman make an impact on special teams as well, like returning kicks, because he's just that dynamic. But no, rotation, yeah, like we're practically 3 deep on the front, which is insane to think about. The guys like Jordan Kelly is your, I'm not gonna saying worst is mean, but like Jordan Kelly is your probably second or third guy, depending on which week you're playing.
Right.
It is. Everyone's feeling good when the biggest concern is like Perrin Winfrey asked, is it Micah Hoke or Hawk? I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's like, can we get like the Halloween music to play on third downs on defense for me, because he's got the thigh pads with Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers on there. It's like, so you might be hearing that at home games this year if you happen to make it on third down, and you'll be like, where's this? Why are they playing this music? It's for Perrion. So if you hear the that's for him.
He coming for you. Dad, are you looking forward to the season? We're in 2 days now.
Yeah, I'm ready. I have it on my calendar. I'm marking the days off each day.
Do you already have your money set aside for your pay-per-view game for the second week?
No.
Please let this be the last year we have to pay $40-$50 for a body bag game nobody really wants to watch at the end of the day.
What are you talking about? Those Missouri State people want to see that game.
No, they don't want to see that game either.
No, they do not.
But when I checked with my contact at the athletic ticket office, the tickets go out the 16th of August.
All right, 8 days out.
8 days out.
And everyone on Twitter posted pics. There's more beautiful than I ever imagined. Or like, they're still doing paper, like by request? They're doing paper tickets by request.
No.
Oh, that sucks.
That's what I understood, because I'm from the old school. I want my ticket in my hand, and they said no. It's gonna be all
digital.
Yeah, all digital. Yes.
Honey, my battery's dead.
That was the last word I got.
Honey, my battery's dead, and so are our tickets. If we don't get a charger like in 5 minutes, can we go to the bookstore to the stadium and see if they got one?
We'll be a wall
emergency
hugger
battery power.
We'll let you charge for $10 an hour. What? Got to get that money somewhere to pay these recruits. Got a couple more things really fast, and then we'll dive right into the main topic of this live stream. Sean, Gavin, Dad, you saw that we picked up a lot of wonderful recruits this week. I think we picked up Luke Haas. I do not know how to.
It's Haas.
Like
Haas.
Has.
Okay, so we picked up.
Yeah, I heard Josh McCuistion say it in his in his video, so I was like, okay, I have no idea how to pronounce this.
I don't either, and I've been struggling.
The kid from Bixby's pretty good. In fact, I've kind of been keeping an eye on that Bixby team, which has been, I'm not kidding you, they've won like 6 out of the last 7-8 titles, over here in the Tulsa metro area across the state. So they got a pretty good kid.
So a good thing.
Yeah, and what's funny is that his teammate is basically Paisley is actually committed to Oklahoma State as a running back though too, who had a monster game against Booker T that was on ESPN. who had like
Yeah.
400 total yards. So, I mean, Bixby has like been like a real powerhouse, for like the last couple years across the state.
And that's something you mentioned, Gavin, is that a tight end's coming to OU. What? A tight end's coming to OU? Iowa in shambles at this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my joke in there right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, now that you mentioned Titans, oh gosh, what was that QB's name? He's basically a walk-on over there over at OU. I can't remember his name. I can't remember, but he like started for Carl Albert for all 4 years and just basically decided to walk on over at OU. What was his name? I can't remember.
Quick to the updated fall roster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have posted that, by the way, so we are updated.
Yeah.
Good.
But anyway, the only reason, and he give me nightmares because I watched my alma mater played against him twice, and they basically fell to him twice. And one of them was like on a weird, bizarre play, which I showed you, Josh, which was that weird interception, basically. And then they fumbled the ball, and basically he picked it back up and scored for a touchdown, which was probably the most insane plays I've ever seen.
High school football.
If I went to Shawnee High School for a semester, do I get to count that as my alma mater? Like, do I get to claim Creed Humphrey? That's what I'm saying.
Sure. I just don't see why not.
I say so, yeah.
I was there for a semester until I dropped out and joined the Army. It counts.
There you go. See, you figured it out.
Yeah.
Got that. The only other thing I want to mention besides there was 2 more recruits as well. It was Makai Lemon and Trajan Webb, which are great pickups for OU as well. That 2023 class is Trayon. It's Trayon. Okay, Trayon. It's that 2023 class is going to be fantastic.
You forgot Malachi Nelson.
Yeah,
that's because he's already recruited. But I don't. He's already here at this point.
Trayon was like the day or two afterwards.
Well, Malachi. I mean, everybody knew Malachi was. Wasn't he already announced by our last live stream?
I mean, yeah, but so is Trayon Webb.
Oh, okay, fair.
You know what's amazing to me about like these 2023 recruits that we're getting commits from? Like it never fails. And if I'm picking on anybody, I apologize, but it's always a couple of things. Whenever I make a video, it's like, guys, we got a 5-star player for 2023. Isn't that great? I always get comments like, oh, it was plenty of time for him to flip or go to another school, or nobody cares about the next year. It's like, what about 2022? It's like, what about 2022? It's like, guys, have you seen our list of 2022? Like, we're good right now. Like, the guys we're keying on for 2022 are not committing anytime soon. And if they are, like, we'll hear about it, like, from the recruiting bigwigs sooner than later, like, the Sooner scoops and whatnot. But the guys we're going after are big, heavily contested, like, front 7 defensive. Like, everyone's like, where's the defense? We're the defense. Those are the toughest guys to get right now. Yeah. So like the Gabe Dindies, the Kenyatta Jacksons, the Omari Abors, those are the tough guys right now. And some of those are going to wait till the very end because we're going toe to toe with Ohio State, Alabama, and so forth. So you gotta be. So I try to tell people, it's like, be patient. Like, we may not get all of them. I'm confident on Gabe Dindy at the moment. Kenyatta Jackson's 50-50 with Ohio State, but everyone's just like, it's like, what about 2020? I got this one guy who comments every time. It's like, I'm nervous. What about 2022? It's like, have you seen our class right now? It's like top 10, and like we're good. Everything's good. Like, we got Raleigh Brown and Sawchuck out of Colorado, and we're probably going to get Javante Barnes for running back. Like running back depth's going to be great next year. So it's like people like I put up 5-star Makai Lemon. It's like, isn't this great? And everyone's like, ugh. Like everyone wants it now. Everyone wants it right now. They don't want to wait.
No. Yeah, well, that makes them just so excited for the season.
Yeah, another player I'm trying to keep an eye on though too, and right now he's been commenting a lot of Sooners stuff though too. Gentry Williams over at BTW in Tulsa.
Yeah. That's the other guy everyone was losing their mind over weeks ago because he took the trip to USC. I'm like, oh, he's gone. He's not going to commit to Oklahoma. It's all over. And it's like, and like the Josh McCuishes of the world's like, just everybody calm down. It's going to be okay. We're probably going to get his teammate to commit fairly soon.
Yeah.
So that's going to be good sign number 1. So everyone freaking out about Gently because everyone's worried about in-state recruits. It's like, it's going to be okay. Like, we're winning those battles again. We were kind of like messing around the past couple of years with our in-state guys, but you know, we have corrected our course on that. Like in-state, because like the in-state recruits for the next couple of years are pretty solid for Oklahoma for high school football.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's like you said though too. This is probably one of the few times that I remember seeing a lot of the in-states going to OU, because I remember, from what I can remember, there was a kid out of Beggs who committed to A&M, too, and he was
I know you're talking about. Like that was a guy. Who was it? Oh God, I know who you're talking about too. I just can't remember his name, but that was a guy. If OU. Like Grinch, like everyone's like he was a safety, but Grinch wanted him to play linebacker because he just didn't see him as a linebacker, and everyone's like, "Why aren't we getting him?" And it's like, I this was a year or so ago, but it's like, if you don't trust Alex Grinch now, I mean, he didn't see him as a safety, so it's like if Alex Grinch says, "I don't see you as a safety," and we're willing to let you go, I'm cool with it. I'm fine. Because we're about to have, like, I think our defense, like everyone says, they'll have a top 25 defense. I think they'll be better than 25. I think we're gonna flirt with top 10 defense if things go right. So,
yeah, we're getting there. It's exciting, definitely. What Gavin said about seeing the recruits.
We're gonna have a pass rush late in the fourth quarter in tough games, and it's gonna be great.
We're actually going to have a defense in the fourth quarter. This is fantastic.
No, a fresh legs with a pass rush in the fourth quarter. That's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be so great to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been seeing that as well, though, too. In fact, basically, it's been like you guys said, it's been pretty great to see some of the in-state recruits, staying home. But I want to say, before we continue on, I want to mention this out, though, too, since, this has been breaking news, most of the day today, of the passing of the great Bobby Bowden.
Yeah.
After passing away from cancer earlier today.
Was that? Did they officially say that? It was because
I was just hearing a lot of talk that's saying it was like cancer and everything. I can't really.
They called it. They just referred to it as like terminal illness, and it's like, well, that could be a number of things. But
I read somewhere that it was prostate cancer.
Okay.
Oh
yeah. And now I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I thought that's what I read today. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But anyway, there was this talk and everything about earlier that one of the memories that we had, was with Bobby Bowden was basically him and his Florida State Seminoles with Winky, and as Florida State was defending national champions against the 2000 Sooners with Josh Heupel and Bob Stoops, coming onto the national scene, with that defense, and I gotta say, and I'm just say this, he was probably one of the greatest coaches, I would say, probably, you would see out of the state of Florida. I mean, you can make some other arguments about that, but I think the state of Florida, you would have to say, was Bobby Bowden.
Well, I mean, I grew up here in Florida. I grew up in Orlando, Sooner born and bred in Oklahoma, but I grew up here. And I got up this morning early, uncharacteristically on a Sunday, but I did. And the news was broken very early. And so I made a quick little video just to give my thoughts. And of course, you make one comment about the SEC and someone gets up in their feelings about it because you're trying to talk about the history of the sport with Bobby Bowden. But people who weren't around, like I know Josh and Gavin, but like people don't understand who weren't like around to experience that, how big Florida State was. And I'm not just talking about in-state here, because it was the in-state, it was the only game that mattered. Yeah. And because it's just because not only because it affected everything on the national level. It was for 10 years, like from 1990 to about 2001. There was no question. You can argue whatever rivalry you want from 90 to 2002. Like it was Florida State that affected things. It was a top 10 matchup every year, sometimes top 5. Whenever Florida would drop a game to someone in the SEC, I considered it an upset because Steve Spurrier ran that conference. His toughest challenge every year wasn't Alabama or Tennessee or Georgia or Auburn. It was Bobby Bowden of Florida State. And Bobby Bowden has won the battle. It's like 7 out of 3 or something like that. You go back to 94 with the choke at the Doak, which led to the 5th quarter in the French Quarter. You go to 1996 where Florida State beat Florida. And then, of course, if you hated Alabama LSU rematch, guess what? You know, the original, before the remake, there was the original movie with Florida and Florida State in the Sugar Bowl where they met, and Steve Spurrier got the rematch and won his one and only national title. And it took Bobby Bowden, like he won his first title in 93 against Nebraska, where they almost pulled a horseshoe out of their butt and almost got that field goal that went wide. Like they literally, Nebraska got it down with like a second left with just outside of it. Was like an insane finish back then. Got his first natty there. Like Winky, like he was down to his 3rd string quarterback against Tennessee in that first BCS title game. So he missed out there. Finally got it against Virginia Tech when Michael Vick scared the hell out of him with his like athletic ability. And then you go to OU, and that was kind of the end of the run, because Florida State was a top 5 team, finished AP top 5 from 1987 to 2001. Like everyone's impressed. I mean, Alabama, what they're doing is the greatest thing ever, and no one's going to doubt that. But before that, like Bobby Bowden that's like Bud Wilkinson level stuff right there. It's Barry Switzer level stuff. Like Barry had a couple years in between his time where OU had a dip. Florida State consistently top 5, 87 to 2001. That's insane. And and some people will say, well, they didn't play anybody in the ACC, and there's some truth to that. But they played the Miami Hurricanes every year, and the Florida Gators. That was tough. So and just being like, and the entire state of Florida became relevant like from like the 80s on, and Bobby Bowden was one of the reasons why the state of Florida became must-watch television, because the 70s and 80s established who the powers were. We were one of them. But to take a program that was literally non-existent, and through his coaching period, and built it up from scratch and made Florida State a national power. You know, Bobby Bowden, he's a lot of coaches get statues right away in certain places. He earned his statue at Florida State. So
yeah, absolutely. Dad, what do you remember about Bobby Bowden?
You know, I will say this though too.
You don't remember anything?
No,
not necessarily.
I remember the Florida State game, but other than that, no. I know he was a good coach, good Christian man, and everything. Had very good morals and everything, and I respected him very highly for that. But that's all I really knew about Bobby Bowden.
Gotcha. Do you remember the Florida and Florida State games?
Oh yeah,
from the 90s?
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, but couldn't tell you anything about him now. But I did remember watching them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
He there's a buddy of mine who
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, that's fine.
Go ahead, Gavin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I would say probably one of the most memorable things, I would say, just from watching it and everything. I know this was a little before my time, but there was one play, and he had this worked out so perfectly, and you guys maybe remember this: the punt Ruski with Florida State and Clemson.
Yes.
And and that play pretty much, helped, Florida State to beat Clemson, which it was such a close, tight game and everything. So basically, and this was how the play was. So basically, it was 4th and 10. They were at their own 21. I mean, if you're any coach at any level, you try not to. Oh, I think we lost Sean.
I'll let him back in.
Okay. You basically had like a regular punt formation, and everybody thinks, they're just going to punt it away, let the defense stand. And this was during the time where ties were still a thing. And Bobby Bowden had the guts with, like, I would say less than 90 seconds or so, basically decide to run that punt on his own 21-yard line. So basically, it was a snap to the up back. Punter goes up to the air, acting like it's over his head. The up back gives it to one of the other up backs, put it right between his legs, and I can't remember the guy who ran it though and everything, but basically ran it towards the other way and got it all the way down to the Clemson one, before they basically kicked the field goal to win the game.
Yeah.
It
was crazy.
I mean, he was like, I think if anything was very innovative at the time, so he, especially, with some of the offenses that he had, I mean, besides Winky, I'm trying to think, who was it? I mean, I know he had Deion Sanders, of course, though, too, but there was
he had Charlie Ward.
Charlie Ward, yeah, that's what I was going to say, though, too. I mean, he had some exceptional athletes as well, that gone on to do
or done all that stuff. So it's just there's so many guys that just to kind of like get back to like the 2000 years, like I always emphasize to people, like there's this, whenever I get around to making my own like reflection on the 2000 year, because I keep saying I'm going to do it, but one day I'll do it. Like I grew up on 1990s college football, and what OU did in 2000, like when you beat Nebraska and Florida State in the same year, and you beat them when they're on top, like those were the teams of the 90s. Those were the two most dominant teams. And I just, it's easy to go back and forget. And, people list like great teams, like, people want to crown LSU a couple, like, is LSU 2019 the greatest ever? It's like, I think people have slowed down a little bit on that. Like, cause like there's 01 Miami and there's 95 Nebraska, but like people don't really, like, some people forget how special that year was, because it wasn't just that they won national title, it's who they beat and when they did it. Like, yeah. So when you beat, like, it wasn't Tom Osborne, it was Frank Solich, but you still beat Nebraska when they were Nebraska, and you beat Florida State when they were Florida State.
And you shut down Florida
State.
And
you shut down, like, a high-powered offense. Snoop Minnis, like, sure, would have made a difference, but, like, Florida State wasn't lacking for talent at wide receiver with Anquan Bolden, thank you very much. Yeah. So I don't think Snoop Minnis would have made a difference.
Well, and that was something I was mentioning to Gavin and Dad, too, was our defense had to step up for that game because Heupel was kind of injured. What game was that he got injured in?
Oh, he got hurt in the A&M game, I think.
It was A&M? Okay. Yeah, he didn't really fully heal from that, and at some point, the defense just had to step up, and they shut them down on it. I wish we could have done more points, but beggars can't be choosers.
And like you said, though, too, the only points that was given up, though, was basically the what was it? Basically that safety that they had, where it was just a high punt snap that they had over the head.
And Ferguson makes the play of the game by.
I mean, that was just their only points.
Just diving on the ball.
Yeah, they didn't want to get shut out. Which actually, this was mentioning the Florida State and the OU game. This was actually a good segue to getting kind of to the meat of our live stream with this. So, Dad, can you tell us kind of the origins for you, like what made you grow up as a Sooner fan, how the family ties in the family, and we can kind of just ask you questions about the good old days. I mean, talking about Bobby Bowden lets us go back a little bit in time and look at all the great players and plays and everything.
Well, as Josh knows, we go back to 19. My dad was in the Pride, and he has his picture in the yearbook. He was also on the, what was it, Josh? It
was the Jazz Hounds.
Yeah, would you explain what the Jazz Hounds were, please?
They were the precursors to the Roughnecks.
Okay.
And we have his paddle. Or Josh is the keeper of the paddle. And you know how the Roughnecks have their paddle? Well, we have his paddle too. So, but we've been season ticket holders since early 1960s. For the
Actually,
family.
if you keep talking, Dad, I'm going to go get it.
Josh.
You keep on talking.
We live in Lawton, and Daddy was in the early 60s, Daddy was the ticket agent for if you wanted to get OU tickets. He kept them behind the register. We had a clothing store, and people would come in. He had a diagram of the field and everything, and he sold the tickets for them for many years. Now that lasted until 1967, because that's when Daddy died. And But that's how I became, an OU fan. Both my sisters went to OU, and I guess I was the black sheep. I ended up at Cameron, and I loved every minute of it. I wouldn't have changed it for a minute. That was right after Daddy died, so I stayed home, took care of Mother and everything. So that's why I could have went to OU, but I stayed at home.
I always heard like the old timers, like on the old 50s teams, talk about how people came to the games, but it wasn't impossible to walk up and buy a ticket like it is today. Like back in it was easier to get in, because I think one of the old 50s players said, like, if you were a high school player, there you go. That's pretty cool.
That's the thing. Yeah. And then Grandpa's name on it.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, what's that fraternity right there?
This one? I do
know.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Looks like Sigma Alpha.
Well, he was a Sammy. And I don't remember. It was the Jewish community or Jewish frat.
Okay.
He was a Sammy.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's this one right here too. Which really fast, if you want to mention it to show like where it was all the way, it still has Oklahoma U at that point instead of University of Oklahoma. Old school.
Yeah.
Old school. Yeah. But you're talking about the 50s. When I was going to the games in the early 70s, when I was old enough to drive, Saturday games were already at 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturday afternoons, 1:30. And they weren't aluminum benches. They were the wooden benches. And during September, October, you know how it can be around here. It was hot with no wind. At that time, we didn't have the cell phones and stuff like that. Everybody had their little transistor radios listening to the games, or they had the earphones on, like what you're wearing, Sean, or whatever. You could see them throughout the stadium. And I was real fortunate. I got to see the Sooner Schooner. I also got to see Little Red. And I know that has a story in it.
Little Red,
yeah. I still do remember that.
Well, what are you talking about?
Go ahead. The mascot, the mascot, they were like, you forget that ever existed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is absolutely true.
Yeah, we had a Mex the dog way back then. We had a Little Red, and then the Sooner Schooner was around like 60. It was like 64 was like year one for the Schooner, if I recall correctly. Because it was like it was literally the first season after Bud left. It was like 64, 65, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? And then Top Dog, but that's not football related.
Well, Top Dog has properly returned to his duty for basketball games. Very important.
It's because he knew the SEC was coming and he had to make his grand.
We had to. It's all hands on deck. We got to bring our best. So it's very.
I know, right?
Okay, but so Ed,
go ahead.
Okay, so Ed, I wanted to ask you this though too. Like,
go ahead, Gavin.
Of all the games like that you've been to, which game was the most memorable for you of all the years that you've been?
Okay, you're breaking up real good. You want to hear about some of the memorable games that I saw?
Yes.
Really. Oh, okay. Well, we were fortunate enough to go. We went to the 1971 game of the century, the OU Nebraska game. At that time, we were in the south end zone, and if you remember, the wind was 35 or 40 out of the north, and it was vicious. The three things I remember about that game: one, we did lose, but I still say on the Johnny Rogers run back, I still think Joe Wiley got clipped. If you see him on the sideline,
that is a correct answer.
My 9 days thinking he was. Yes,
I think Sean, you're the one that mentioned.
The other thing is,
oh, go ahead. Sorry, you have a bit of a delay, but go ahead.
Okay, on mine, when we're up in the stands, we're kind of high in the south end zone, and about 4 or 5 rows down, there got to be a fight in the stands. And what it was a Nebraska player, Nebraska fan, really saying some obnoxious things about OU, and the 3 OU fans behind him just started beating the crap out of him. He was bloody. It was vicious. So here come the highway patrol, And they told him what happened. He goes, well, I want these guys arrested. And they told him what the story was. He says, well, you shouldn't have been talking about the OU game. And they left. I mean, the OU fans. The highway patrolman didn't do anything.
See, the problem is, it's like when I was in the Army, like if one guy in basic training was getting everyone else in trouble, like the old adage was, all right, we'll take care of this problem ourselves. If anyone asks why he's all bruised and bloody, we'll just say he slipped in the shower. We all tried to catch him.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other experiences I had.
I was about to say a fight in the north end zone. Why does that sound almost familiar?
No, south. This was south end zone. This was
south end zone. I thought you said north.
I know what you're talking. No, I know what you're talking about on the fight. Yes. Yeah.
There's ketchup on my shoes.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking. Okay, gotcha. Okay, that kind of slipped by me. I'd forgotten about that. Yes.
Oh, I'll never forget that.
What was the third story you had?
Oh, the other one is some of the OU Texas games we went to. Now, back in the 70s, they didn't have the lottery system. We were season ticket holders. We got the tickets. But back then, the tickets were only $20 a shot.
Woo!
And the latest, now they always start at 11:30. There was one time it started at, believe it or not. And what had happened, it was on ABC. And before they showed the OU game, there was a baseball playoff, and they would not cut away from that baseball playoff to start show the start of the game. But it finally started at 2:30 in the afternoon. The other thing is, if you are familiar with the Cotton Bowl let's say you're going into the ramp, we were about 4 or 5 sections over on the press box side, but over on the right-hand side, and we're up about 30 or 40 rows. Teresa and I were there that year. And all of a sudden, we were beating Texas to a pulp that year. Can't remember what it was. But all of a sudden, to the right of us, toward the ramp, we have these 2 vultures flying around and dive bombing the people. Well, say, well, they're after the Texas people and everything. They say they're taking over the remains. But they did that for 5 and 10 minutes. And all of a sudden, they got up further than what they are. Then they started crapping on everybody. And I ain't talking, you just see it. Flowing down. You've never seen so many people move in all your life.
Okay. I wanted to also ask you.
These are the stories you don't hear from the books. You have the ones from the players, but then you have the ones from the normal fans. I've never heard the vulture story, period, ever.
Wow.
And no, Sean, because Josh couldn't believe this. Whenever we went to the OU Texas game, I never ate anything there. No corn dogs, no turkey legs. Now, when we took Megan and Josh, we fed them Mexican food, but I was afraid I'd get sick. So I was down there and I didn't eat.
Wow.
I've had one occasion where we got there not early enough, let's put it that way. And it was, the line for coupons was just out.
Yeah.
You might as well. It's like, I was imploring the people I was with. Is like, listen, I know the game starts at kicks off at 2:30. I understand that. We should still get there fairly early.
Yes,
but they didn't want to do that. And I'm like, okay, I'm warning you.
But in the early 70s, there was never coupons. It was cash. You could go up to the vendors and they take cash and give you your change back.
Oh, so that did used to happen that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing I was telling Josh. They have, if you've been there, they've got those little vending areas and everything. You can go and play the arcade. In the 70s, we went into one and it had your nickel, almost not a slot machine, but it was a nickel thing. And you had the crank and it showed dirty movies.
Oh, I believe it. Well, I assume they moved to coupons because you're dealing with carnies. So they're going to take their, you got to isolate all the money in one spot because you can't trust the carnies.
That's right. They were probably skimming, you would think, and everything, but yeah.
Okay.
Well, and you mentioned it too, Dad, that it was funny that with the vendors, and the reason you haven't missed out on anything with it, because you said it was the same thing every year. So it's death taxes, OU beating OSU, and the vendors at the OU at the State Fair of Texas.
It was the same setup and everything. Nothing changed over the years. And but it was fun. We had a good time going down there, and I wouldn't have changed it for the world. Wouldn't have changed it.
Though you do have another funny story from OU Texas. If we're talking OU Texas, you have to tell the one about James Allen.
James Allen.
Yeah, it was James Allen, wasn't it? For the 96 win?
Yes. It was
that game.
Was it 1985? And it was when John Blake was the coach. And we had fantastic tickets that year. If you're coming out of the ramp, we're across from the press box side, about 3 sections over. We're at the very top. In fact, behind me was the wall to look down to the Cotton Bowl. We were at the very, very top, about the 15-yard line, so you could see everything. So it's getting down to the fourth quarter, and we're down, if you remember, by 3 touchdowns. Is that right, Sean? About 3?
I don't remember. I don't know if it was 3, but I do remember. James Allen came up short like 2 years earlier. He got stuffed on the goal line, and then he got to be a hero this go around.
So I took Megan that year, my daughter, and we were up there watching. I say, okay, it's 9 minutes to go. We're down by 3. We're going to lose. We're not going to win this game. Let's go. Get out, beat the crowd, because we had to drive back to Fort Worth. So we get back to the car, and I'm listening to the radio, and I hear that we won the game. I went, no, that's a replay. They're just talking about old games. I said, no, they came back and won it. So Megan's behind me, and she starts hitting me in the back of the neck, going, you made me miss this game. You made me miss the winning of this game. What, Teresa? She was 9. So and hit me on the back while I'm driving.
And it was the first year that college football implemented overtime too.
Yeah, 1996. Yes,
yeah, 96. And then so I remember the call of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The toss to James Allen, touchdown Sooners. The Sooners win. And then like everyone. And then I remember the image I remember is them dogpiling everyone. There was the one sad male Texas fan in the crowd with like the Texas little cheek, stick on tattoo. He was just he's like, we just lost to like probably the worst OU team we've ever played because they were 0-4 walking in. They had Priest Holmes and Ricky Williams in the backfield, and they lost. That was the beginning of the end for McAfee.
Yeah. Since then, I have never left an OU game early again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the funny part for some of the listeners and stuff too watching is the tradition in the family was if we won, Dad would take us all to get a steak dinner somewhere because you have to have a steak dinner. Something I've kept as a tradition since. If we lost, we hoped that we would get cold McDonald's. Like we would just hope we would get something. Mom made him feed us, but it was cold McDonald's most likely most of the time because he was fuming from them.
You see, it was I don't know. I think it was my parents' generation that came up with no, we have McDonald's at home or we have food at home. I always want to go by the drive-thru. Now we have food at home.
Yeah, right. And the other thing I remember before I forget, the Nebraska game was always played. This was when we were in the Big 8 on Thanksgiving Day. It started that way. So our meals on Thanksgiving Day were planned around when Nebraska played. So, yeah, we were not going to miss that game. Then I think it went to Friday, and who knows when it is any other year, But it started out on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, they move it to the day after. That's kind of the popular day for certain games now. Now Nebraska plays Iowa because I'm sure they're all thrilled to play that game.
Well, and Dad, you mentioned that the 80, I think it was the 84 game or the 85 game against Texas, the tie.
Oh,
no,
84.
84. The one that you said you were at that one and you were bitter about that one because it ended in a tie.
Oh, that was the one. That's the OU Texas game.
Yeah.
That was the one where it poured. I mean, that
turf
was
a little wet that day, huh?
Yes, it was. Now, I didn't go to that game. I watched it on TV. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. And we got taken advantage of twice. There's other words I could use, but the first one they fumbled and we recovered and they didn't give it to us. And then Stanberry intercepts it in the end zone, and they said he was out of bounds and everything. And the next day on the Daily Oklahoman, they had a half a page picture where Stanberry had this interception. They never called it.
I saw a copy of a copy of the coach's show somewhere a while back, and I remember Switzer's like, if I find out that's a Big 8 official, I swear, if I find out that's a Big 8 official,
yes, he'll never coach. He'll never.
He will never call a game in one of my games again.
No,
Yeah.
but I was fortunate growing up. Then, man, I got to see Jack Mildren. I got to see the Selman brothers, Ricky Dixon, Pruitt, Joe Washington, and all them. That was a highlight. I mean, that was just so fun watching them play. You know, they just rushed the 3 Selman brothers. The other ones would lay back and wait to see what happens. Then they had a great defense.
I think Jimbo Elrod was quoted as like, I got to play with the Selmans and I got to make plays because everyone tried to double team him. I got to make plays being All-American.
Yes, that's right.
Like old Jimbo Elrod was like, that was great for me.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you this too, Ed, because you mentioned with like Joe Washington for the most part. I wanted to ask you, like, from all the previous Heisman Trophy winners that you saw and everything, who was probably your favorite?
Player, or you mean running back?
Running back, quarterback, like a Heisman Trophy winner for over at OU.
Oh, that's too many to choose.
Oh, that's a lot to choose from. That's an easy question at 8:30 at night. I don't know. They were all special in their own ways. I really don't have a favorite. I really, really don't. I mean, geez. I don't know. I like Mayfield as a quarterback.
Yeah, you know what? Like, Ed, I'm like you in that respect because, like, there are like, this is kind of like another, like, we're a blue blood program and we have so many good players, but it's true though, because for some schools and some fan bases, it's super easy to pick out their favorite player because they'll have that one great player that everyone remembers. But there's a reason we don't retire jerseys at Oklahoma, because everyone's going to have fights on who you retire and who you honor. And they came up with like the brilliant idea. Okay, Heisman winners get statues, and they finally made an exception to that rule because the Selmans will be getting one at some point in the future, from what I understand.
Right.
So, but it's just like you could get into fist fights at tailgates over who should get their number retired. And then you'd start running out of numbers.
Yeah, that's true. I remember.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say too, from my generation though too, I would just say probably Mayfield would probably be at the top, with that swagger, swashbuckle type grit that he always brought to the game and everything. That was probably one of my top favorites though too.
Right.
But I would say, I would probably go ahead and probably put like the heartwarming story of Jason White, after both of his knees, second. And I would say probably third all time, in my opinion, would probably be the great Billy Sims.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Speaking, and I'm just making a segue to this. Earlier in the week, I actually got to meet Billy Sims actually in person because he came over to my work recently. In fact, Josh, can you show that picture real quick?
Sure.
Yeah. So basically, he came over at work earlier in the week, and he was doing. Yeah, of course,
Gavin.
got the horns down. So I mean,
Gavin, listen. Do you realize how Gavin? Do you realize how many lives you are putting in danger by showing that photo on the internet? You know how many hearts could be broken if that is seen by the wrong people?
Yeah,
we are in a global pandemic. Hearts are not strong for a lot of people. Horns up. I know it's not my channel, but like Josh, you need to make this a Horns Up for Peace channel. Horns up for peace.
This is a Horns Up for Peace channel. I mean, what did you say, Sean? It's a gateway gesture.
It's a gateway gesture. It's just going to lead to God knows what else. And then I'm disappointed, Gavin. I'm disappointed. But no, but in all seriousness, it's a really cool picture. Like he looks like he's dropped some weight. He's looking.
Yeah, he has.
He's looking thin in that picture. But you know what? As long as he's doing good. Like Billy's got him. Hopefully, I don't know if they're going to host the Heisman in New York this year. I know they did virtual last time.
Right.
But
yeah.
I will be more than happy to see him potentially there, standing behind potentially Spencer Rattler, yelling "Boomer," and just I love it. I love it when people get annoyed by him. It's like, good, annoy them, Billy. Keep you do you, Billy. I love it.
Yeah, Dad, I think that's one of the things too. Is you were with me those couple times we did those autograph signs, and Billy's always been a hoot to meet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He always enjoys seeing fans. He absolutely enjoys just sitting down
he's
and
a
just
very
being with
gracious
everyone.
person.
Yeah, he is.
And
we won't talk about the boss though.
No, the boss, that's a whole different story.
Yeah,
how he was back then is how he is now.
Are you saying Brian Bosworth could be a little bit of a jerk at times? Is that what you're trying?
Little doesn't even cover it. You're being nice, Sean.
Just a tad.
Well,
no.
Well, what's funny though is that Billy Sims was doing this for a good cause, though, for the blood sickle disease and everything, and having people donating blood, along with the American Red Cross Foundation.
Right.
So and I'm just going to say this right now, though, too. If you guys are watching, though, too, please, I would say donate blood while you can, because right now there are a lot of people that are in need. There's a real short supply on blood that's going on right now, real low critical stage and everything. So please, if you can, please give blood.
Right.
There's supply chain problems for a lot of things, but definitely blood is one of them right now. So
one of the other memories I have was OU playing Texas, of course. Earl Campbell, and I remember him going off tackle one time. It took 5 Sooners to get that boy down. I mean, they just couldn't get him down at all.
He was all right. Earl Campbell, he was good. He was all right.
Oh, yeah, he was. Yeah, Earl Campbell was that. But this is also another question, though, too. Who had the better wishbone, OU or Texas?
Oh, I think OU did. OU. Yeah. They improvised. Well, no, I mean, I don't remember Texas having the pitch back like what Mildren used to do. And I could be wrong. Am I, Sean or Gavin?
Well,
trailing back.
I mean, there's only like one game you can really watch from 71, and that was the Nebraska game. But I like to listen. Texas is like they're the father, the wishbone to an extent, but I think Barry perfected it.
Yes,
because everybody was running some sort of triple option, whether it was the wishbone or the eye back. That was kind of the stop, or the veer. Everyone was running that back then. But the thing I appreciate about Jack Mildren is that Switzer got Fairbanks to change the offense mid-season in 1970, and because if they didn't, they were probably going to lose their jobs. But it was just they switched to it, they learned it, and they got their butts whipped like one week. But you could Barry still went and coached. He's like you could see the difference. They were setting the foundation, and for Jack Mildren, all those wishbone quarterbacks, all the way up to Holloway and back, and Charles Thompson and back, like they all had someone to look back to. It was like, okay, like this is how I do it. This is what J.C. Watts did. This is what Thomas Lott did. This is what Steve Davis did. Jack Mildren didn't have that. He didn't have anyone to base off, so he had to set the tone. He set the mold for what a wishbone quarterback at Oklahoma had to do, and he like I said, he came up. They all came up short, just a few points in that Nebraska game, but they went on to win. OU Nebraska went and beat the Iron Bowl teams like back to back in those bowl games later on. So Nebraska beat Alabama, we beat Auburn. I think it was who was it? Pat. Who was the Auburn quarterback? He won like the Heisman that year.
Pat Sullivan.
Yeah, Sullivan. Yeah, because Rodgers won it the next year, 72, I think, if I recall correctly. I used to know my Heisman winners like by heart, but I keep messing up from time to time. But yeah, just again, just like I love the history of this program. It's so much fun to go back and just go all the little things here and there. But yeah, I've heard stories, and like I can only imagine like what it's like to go to a game now compared to then. It's just like literally night, like haha, no pun intended, literally night and day. Like there's not outside of the band, there's no pregame music or anything. And I've heard stories how the old days you could see the team warming up on the far, if you were like depending where you are, the far end to get in the just off the end, they were warming up, stretching. They didn't do it on the field like they do today. So just I love hearing old stories. Like Fights in the Stands is great. It's like those are the stories. Like they don't write those down in books. You don't hear those stories.
And you never hear about them.
Like this isn't like an OU thing, but my dad took me to, like we moved down here in the late 80s, and my dad got season tickets to the Orlando Magic when they first started up. It was a big deal. And he took me to games, and they were terrible. They were an expansion team. But yeah, I got to go to games like I got to see all the greats. Like I got to see Magic, Larry, Michael.
Wow!
Anyone who was a name in '89 or '90, I saw them play. And I went and saw the Boston Celtics. I got to see Larry Bird play, and Larry Bird was Larry Bird still. He was going through, his back was starting to give out, but he was still Larry Bird. Mm-hmm. But the Celtics were just like killing us, of course, and you have a lot of snowbirds down here from New England, so there are plenty of Celtics fans in the crowd. Mm-hmm. And Scott Skiles was like our point guard back then, Michigan State guy, former coach and everything. And so this was burned as a child, as a 7-8-year-old child. This is burned in my head. It's like the simplest thing, but like Celtics fans are going, yeah, they're getting all excited because they're beating on Orlando. And there's this one drunk Celtics fan that was like couple rows ahead of us off to the side, just yelling, "Grow some hair, Skiles!" And it was just like, I don't know why I remember that. I remember two things. Like I remember Reggie Theus making a game-winning shot against the 76ers, and I remember that drunk Celtics fan, "Grow some hair, Skiles!" And it stuck with me till this day. So those are the little things you don't hear about in books, that you don't read about them.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, and that's something to mention too. Dad, you mentioned that it was before this live stream. It was the 73 year where you had to listen to all the games on the radio. That because they never televised, like the greatest OU team not to be televised because they were on the bowl ban.
They had a TV
and the television ban. Yeah,
you could never do that nowadays because you're punishing the opponent too.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about that, of like listening to it on the radio? Because I think you mentioned some of the announcers and stuff too.
Oh, yeah, all the old announcers, not old, but the ones that are not with us anymore. Was it John Brooks that kept saying Jiminy Christmas? Whenever they made a good play, he would go Jiminy Christmas. We had Bob Berry. We had Bob Berry Sr. Who was the announcer now?
Toby
Rowland.
Yeah, he's the one that says, "Okay, let's unhook the horses and put the."
You can unhitch the wagon and put the ponies in the barn.
There you go. Yes, and each one had their own style, but it was fun listening to them. It was great. This year when we played in Missouri, I can't remember the years, where they said "Go Joe, go," and they lined him in the eye, and he went 68 yards. And I had my little transistor radio listening to the game.
Yeah, yep. I mean that "Go Joe Go" was, if they didn't get that play there though too, there was no way they would have played for a national title after losing to Kansas.
Yeah,
and then Joe caught the two-point conversion, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and Missouri still plays to this day. Yeah, Missouri claims that he didn't get in though too, but no, he got in.
Well, if OU left for the SEC that year, he would have not gotten in.
Yeah. Oh, well, now speaking of SEC, Ed, I wanted to get your thoughts about this though too, about OU and Texas moving into the SEC.
Oh, really? I've rooted against the SEC for so many years. It's just ingrained in me. It's hard for me to say SEC. Now, eventually, just because OU is in there, and I'll have to, rooting for Texas, I have to root for Texas. So I think it's a good move. I think it's, financially, we had to financially end everything. But I still, that's all I'll say. But, you have to understand, I've got a house divided. Josh went to OU and my daughter went to OSU. So I root for both schools. I wish OSU could have gone. I understand. But I root for, I like the rivalry. We have too many traditions that may or may not continue. And I think that's wrong for the state. And I think it's wrong for the universities.
Yeah,
I don't know how y'all feel about it. That's just my
in a perfect world, I'd take OSU with us, but It's not a perfect world. And I think if Missouri got a Big Ten offer tomorrow, I think they would take it. There's no grant of rights in the SEC. You can leave in the middle of the night if you want to. And I think Missouri might take that still. But you know what? Like I may have said this somewhere, and Josh will probably tell me, but like if someone came to me like 6 months ago and said, "Hey, look, you and Texas have a chance to go to the SEC, and this is going to happen. This, all the good and positives that come with it, but you got to give up Oklahoma State. You're not going to be able to play them for whatever reason." And honestly, I'd take it. And I know tradition. We talked about so many traditions tonight and everything, and I think the problem with this whole thing is at the end of the day, and I think I talked about this with Eric Lopez, is what I talked about this. Over the course of 20, 30 years, our traditions that we talked about tonight that we love outside of like Texas have been slowly stripped away one by one. And we made concessions and sacrifices, and some of those OU did on their own. Like they allowed things to happen. Like when the Big 12 formed, they decided it was OU that decided, nah, we don't need permanent crossover games. We don't need to play Nebraska every year. That's on us. Like I will openly admit that. So we allowed that to not happen. And I was like, but all we have left, like that's long standing that you could find old footage from the 20s is us playing Texas. Everything else, Nebraska's gone. Oklahoma State has been, despite the overwhelming series advantage, there's been some classic moments in games that I think in-state we care about. On a national level, not so much. Mm-hmm. But, winning the Big 8 and going to the Orange Bowl, that's gone. So I'm willing to make this move because at the end of the day, we're going to a conference where we have other fans, and they're going to be very colorful people to interact with, I'm sure. But they're going to be fan bases that care. All due respect to the rest of the Big 12, it's been a conference that's been on borrowed time. Like when those schools left, Colorado, Missouri, A&M, Nebraska, they weren't Missouri. They weren't the best programs, but they were like the middle portion. Like Nebraska was a little off. Like when Nebraska was on top, they were on. But like that's like your foundation right there. You lost like two programs that had won 4 national titles in the 90s, and then you lose A&M, who's like Texas' #1 rival, and you lose Missouri, and Missouri was on a milk carton as far as I'm concerned the past 10 years. I like so as I joke, like, oh, Missouri, you're in the SEC. Who knew? How you doing? Haven't seen you since the high school reunion. But it's just, I'm willing to make this change. I'm excited. Yes, we're still gonna play Texas one way or another. That's gonna happen. We're gonna play the Aggies, and I'm so looking forward. I am so looking forward to shutting those cosplay wannabe soldiers up so bad. Because that's what they are to me. They're cosplay wannabe soldiers. All due respect to the Corps, but I'm a veteran. I can make fun of them. We'll get to play Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is going to be fun. Those are crazy people. Mm-hmm. Barry Switzer was from Arkansas. He's crazy. So, we got a reference. I just, and playing Bama and LSU and Florida, Georgia, like it's going to be new. Like, I really think our fan base, our stadium experience is like, because we can get up for big games at OU. Like our fan base can get rabid, but they haven't had a real reason to be rabid because we're so good at the Big 12. We're so good at home. I mean, we won 39 games in a row at one point. It was nuts. Like we expect to beat everyone in the Big 12 who walks in through the door. It's like, oh, TCU's here. All right, we'll beat them. Yeah, we've gotten beat a couple of times over the past few years, or we thought we shouldn't have. But you know what? It's like we expect to win. Now it's going to be a different story. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not scared of Arkansas, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, or whatever coming through the door. But I promise you this. Like, if you think our home field advantage ain't special, or you don't think our crowd don't get loud, you just wait till LSU comes into town, or Georgia comes into town, or Alabama comes into town. I promise you, they ain't playing those games at 11 a.m. I promise you that. That is not happening. And I think it's going to give a little bit of listen, whether you have SEC pride or not, I'm not, but like you're going to see how passionate we are. And plus, and it's going to be a lot more fun because the next few years, our football team, with the way recruiting's going, is going to be competing for Southeastern Conference championships more times than not, and national. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. So bring them on. Like we're not coming in just to be a part of this. We're coming in to compete and win. Like people think I'm joking when I say we're coming in to conquer them. I believe that. I think we're going to win that conference a lot sooner than people think. It may not be year one, but we'll be competing for it year one. I promise you that.
Yeah, I was also going to say too, like how you mentioned that too. But but looking away from from a football standpoint, I'm also looking like from a whole athletic standpoint as well. That where, I think for their entire athletic department, I think this has kind of been a better move for them, especially now that softball, they might get their stadium expansion that they desperately need. For looking at from that. Also within gymnastics, they've always been dominant, year in and year out though too, and usually they've always been competing with some of the SEC schools down there as well, along with UCLA. So
and don't forget too that this is going to force OU baseball to step up.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Baseball might need a few years. But no, like we desperately and I think joining the SEC, you'll get that more TV money. I think some donors will finally open their checkbooks now. That may have been hesitant.
Yeah.
I know we're in a weird period with stuff, but I know we talk about the press box from time to time and how we're still waiting on that press box to get upgraded. But when it comes to facilities for other sports, OU is lagging behind a little bit, and they need to upgrade, especially for basketball. Basketball is so far behind; it is way past due for them to get an upgrade.
That's something too, Sean. You brought up, and I was going to ask that. A little bit off topic from OU football, though. Do you remember anything about OU basketball? Especially in the 80s, things like Billy Tubbs or Wayman Tisdale.
Oh, I remember Tisdale and I remember Tubbs, but I did not follow basketball.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if you followed any of the basketball or had any fond memories of the basketball team.
Icing on the cake back then for OU athletics.
Yeah. And, I was also going to say this too, and before I lose my train of thought though, I've actually been hearing since I work at a local station, which is a CBS affiliate from where I work at, he pretty much told me this: if they can get out of the contract within the Big 12, which is what everybody's been talking about, the SEC on CBS is still going to go on for a few years. And he's told me this: if our local stations like we have over here gets those SEC games within on CBS, that's going to be, a huge rating standpoint to where more people are going to get interested within those first couple of years. Now, the only problem is that, of course, we all know, is that the SEC and CBS will probably end, I think it's either 23 or 24, if I'm not mistaken.
And there is the small possibility that ESPN will buy, if OU and Texas make the move next year, there is a small chance that ESPN could buy out those 2 years. So that is something to keep an eye on. However, I'm hoping that doesn't happen because I am a huge college football geek in more ways than one, that I love TV network theme songs. And I want OU on CBS 1 or 2 more times so I can hear that. I want an OU game with that theme song.
Yeah, Okay, so the last time OU actually did play on CBS, and
Sun Bowl.
Was Sun Bowl 2009 against Stanford.
Good game.
Oh yeah, that was a really really good game.
Speaking of 2009, Dad, could you tell the story when you took Megan to Bedlam in 2009?
I'm glad you remember because I don't.
Good game.
That's what I'm here for. Do you remember Megan got dressed up for that game and you both went to that game at home against OSU on it?
Yeah, no, I did take her for. Yeah, okay. If it's the one I took her to, it was a Bedlam game, and she had her cowboy, her boots, her jeans. She had OSU on the side of her cheek and everything. And we're walking down toward Main Street. Is this what you're talking about, Josh?
I was just talking about the game in general.
Oh, we just went and, well, let me finish my story then. We're walking by some guys. I go, well, where'd you find her? And I said, I found her on a street corner. Ooh. But
that's not the one I'm referring to. But
okay. But when they all laughed and everything, but make it, it was a good game. We didn't jive each other. We didn't kid each other during the games and everything. And we hugged and said good game after the event was over.
I remember you telling me that before you left Lawton to go up to Norman Fort, that she was all happy and cheerful, and that OSU had the chance to finally beat OSU, but by the end, since they didn't score a point, she looked like the saddest poke in the stadium.
I don't remember that. I'm not
Jeremy Calhoun almost ruined that shutout, fumbling that ball. I remember that.
Yeah,
I was like, no. I think Rattery got the ball. He saved it. He forced a fumble on the other end and got the ball back.
I don't remember that, Josh.
No, huh? Well, I got one. You
do it if I did. Huh? Yeah, Mom says I'm old. That's why I don't remember.
Actually, the play I do remember is Ryan Broyles' punt return. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. Mm-hmm. I remember. I have another one.
Get out of his way!
I have one for you. For those of y'all that don't know who are watching the stream, I've seen a couple people pop in and out right now. But I was a student there from 2008 till 2012, and Dad and I went to the games. It's
never been the same.
I'm so sorry.
It's never been the same.
I'm so sorry, but we went to the games, and I think my earliest game I went with you, Dad, was to the OU Texas 2000 game. Mm-hmm. But that set the precedent for pretty much, with the exception of Florida State in 2011, it has rained at every single game we've gone to. I cannot the game that I remember that you went with me for the first time as a student was we went down to it was Landry Jones's first game against Idaho State, the one that poured. I think we stayed only till about a half, and we're like, is it time to go? Like, we're winning this game already 50-0. There's a better game on in the dorms. Can we leave now? Okay.
He threw for six.
It was a downpour. Down the steps to the stadium, the water was just pouring down like it was a river. It was terrible. So Sean or Gavin, if you go with Josh, you take your rain gear because it invariably rains. That game we took him to 2000 in the OU Texas game, it rained.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it rained in 04 when I was at the shutout in Peterson's freshman year. I was at that one. It rained a little bit.
You know, it's funny though, because 2014, you know, I actually went to that game, and then after the game I actually met Josh, and it was downpouring that game though.
Yeah, that was the one with Samaje broke the record.
Yes, yeah, which was just only a week old at the time.
Right.
So many
on TV.
So many regretful people who gave their tickets away or sold them. So many regrets.
Me, I will admit it. Yep, I had a ticket. So I did, and it is what it is on it. There was another funny one though, Dad. You mentioned
that's why they have YouTube, and you can look at it years later.
Yeah.
You mentioned too, Dad, about the OU Texas ones too. I have a funny story that I like how we're able to swap the stories here, but I remember it was my junior year. Yeah, it was my junior year in college, and for the people who watch, you can apply for the student tickets with OU Texas. You don't know where you're going to sit; it's just going to be a regular seat. They're just given to you, unlike versus like OU, where you're like, with the student section. So I remember going into the 2011 game to pick up my tickets, and I picked it up. I was like, oh, cool. Got my ticket. Everything. We're good to go. I wonder where these seats are. Some of the best seats I ever had. Row 25 on the 50-yard line.
Oh, I thought it'd be a folding chair on top of the press box.
Yeah.
Oh, it was close enough for me to see what's his name get cussed out on one of the phones when OU was up 3 or 4 touchdowns on Longhorn side. But all I remember was I called Dad. And I was like, hey, I got my Texas tickets. He's like, yeah, where are you sitting? Right here. You're telling me that I've had my tickets for 50 years and I still haven't got the 50-yard line? What is this bullshit?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said.
Yeah, 2010, I went with Joe. 2010, I went with Joe Bettner, and he had like close to 50, like 5 rows up, and it was beautiful. It was like TV viewing seats. I loved it. I loved it so much. And like seeing DeMarco do the tiptoe touchdown and flip into the end zone. It's like perfect, just beautiful.
I like the one with it was I cannot think of his name for the life of me at the game. He had the video game move where he pushed the Texas player out of the way and just kept going, where he did the hurdle.
Oh, you're talking about Trey Millard?
Millard, yeah.
How
Millard.
Dare you forget his name?
Well, I was thinking Trey McGuire, and I was like, no, that's not it.
No. He made another move that was let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, we will. The other funny story I had with Dad, was I remember in 2013 when OU beat OSU in Bedlam, and it was announced that OU was going to the Sugar Bowl. And I remember everyone was cracking the jokes about we want Bama, and then, okay, we got Bama. And I remember calling Dad and be like, I have access to these tickets. I really do think this game, I have a good feeling about this game. He's like, nope, we are going to get our butts handed to us in this game.
I need to call some BS on this, because you and I first started talking like the year before, and I remember having a conversation with you because you were talking to me about how, we weren't going to win this game. I remember you were saying this.
Me? And I was sunshine pipe pumping that game.
Or maybe, but like I remember giving the speech that you seem to love so much or whatever. I gave the speech that you loved, like where I talked about, you know what, got to play the, something along the lines of, he's like, you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to play the big dogs. You can't be afraid. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look how good they are. I got AJ McCarron and, all these guys.
Yeah.
They got all these players. They have Amari Cooper and little Derrick Henry was a freshman and he was like, on cattle steroids and impossible to tackle, but we still got to do it. And by some grace of God, we won the biggest bowl game we've won in like 20 years with Josh Heupel calling the offense and Mike Stoops calling the defense. When you really look back on it and remember, yep, those two were calling plays, and we won.
Ooh, yeah.
I believe in higher beings because of that game. What higher being? I don't know. I'm kind of agnostic, but you know what? At the end of the day, there is a higher being because Mike Stoops and Josh Heupel.
And it was such a fantastic game. But I just remember calling Dad afterwards and just saying, "Hey, guess who was right?" And he's like, "You were right." What was that? That wasn't loud enough. Who was right?
Oh, does this sound like I'm hanging up? Click.
Yeah.
I burst to tears when Stryker hit McCarron and then Grissom. That was the closest thing to winning a natty OU has had 20 years. It was the closest thing. And I was like, damn it, we don't lose to Texas and we don't lose and we don't lose to Pitt. Like, we could have beaten Florida State for all we know.
And that moment inside the Sugar Bowl, everyone just went insane on that play. The scoop and score was just – that stadium lost it. Though I will say they took a little bit out of our sails on that onside kick that we recovered because everyone was like really nervous and everyone like nervously looked around and just laughed. It's like, they had totally had that plan. Yeah.
Look, a squib kick that worked out.
Yeah.
That hurt.
I'm going to say this and I will admit this, and I've started this tradition ever since the Sugar Bowl. Is that whatever bowl that they've gone to, I've always tried to make a theme out of like whichever bowl they did. And I did gumbo for that game, believe it or not. I
no idea where you got that inspiration.
None at all.
Well,
none at all.
No. Well, I mean, it's what's crazy though is that what my family does, like each bowl game that they go to, like major bowl game, like, okay, if they go to Cotton Bowl, okay, we'll do like some Tex-Mex or something. Mm-hmm. If they do like Orange Bowl, like something like Havana inspired, stuff like that. It's just sort of like whatever area that they did
I had a theme.
So
I had a theme for the LSU playoff game after the first quarter or so. Fireball whiskey.
I was gonna say cold McDonald's, but that works too.
No, I had. Listen, I don't drink alcohol, but I had a few shots. I was like, might as well get drunk.
So I've kind of done this, to where it was even before that game. It was actually that 2010 UConn game where we did the Tex-Mex with the Fiesta Bowl as well. So, but like I said, I've always tried to do like whatever major bowl game that they've done in the last 10, 15 years or so. I've always tried to keep a theme of like, basically like wherever they played at, okay, we'll just go ahead and theme it from like where they're playing at for the most part. In fact, I even. Go ahead, Ed.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah. So it's sort of a weird tradition that I've always done. In fact, I think probably one of my favorites was when we were playing in the Rose Bowl, which I know we lost and everything, but we actually made like some grilled California chicken with like some with some grilled cheese on top of the chicken as well, with some tomato and avocados as well. So it's sort of a interesting concept, just trying to do like all these different mixtures, from like whatever games that they do too. So it's something that like like you've said with like some of the traditions, like you guys have though too. For me, like whenever we get to those big bowl games, that's always something I always would try to do, is try and test my culinary skills a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned to me, Dad, about some of the food and stuff too. Did you say that Grandpa made food like during it was OU Texas or what? I think it was a chicken or something.
No.
For some reason, I remember you mentioned in food.
No. Daddy barbecued every Sunday, but it had nothing to do with football games.
For some reason, I remember you mentioning something, but it could have been unrelated.
You don't need an excuse for good barbecue.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
What other, off the top of your head, what other memories do you have from 70s to 80s?
Well,
we don't talk about the 90s.
No. One of the things, it was when we were another OU Texas memory. As you're going into the, if you're on the field going into the ramp, we're in the first section on the right-hand side. And, it was lotto tickets at that time. I mean, you took the tickets that you got. Well, we're on row 1, down at the very bottom. Teresa is pregnant with Megan. Hot didn't even cover it. There was not a stitch of wind. And you see all these guys there, and all pregnant ladies are up in the bathroom. Teresa just goes, yep. They were suffering. Remember? And I think I've got the right guy. I don't know. OU won the game, but they called that they were in the wishbone, I think. And Mike Gaddis, he broke one. He's out in the open, and all of a sudden you see his leg go like a rubber band, and he was out of the game for the rest of it. Was it Gaddis, Sean, or Gavin? It looked like a rubber band in slow motion. I don't know if he pulled a hamstring or what. He planted it.
His whole latter half of his career was plagued by injuries, and he was really good, but he was never the same after he.
Is that what? It looked like slow motion, but really, all the pregnant ladies were up in the bathrooms.
I think who was it that had the big? I'm thinking of Lydell Carr from '87 had a big run against Texas. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of Lydell Carr. But yeah, Gaddis was unfortunately. He had a great game in '88 against that's probably the one Oklahoma State game I remember. It was on ESPN. It was at night, and Lee Corso was like color commentary, and Mike Brent Parker dropped the football.
Yeah, I think probably one of the more memorable runs, and this was probably during the early '80s. The Marcus Dupree run, in the early '80s against Texas. And that was his freshman year, if I'm not mistaken.
That was a fake reverse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fake reverse. He didn't hand it off, and he just went around the end, and no one touched him.
I wasn't born until after that season, like in December of '82. But everything I hear is like if Barry would have just took him into his office and sat him down and explained, listen, you thin-skinned little, what? All due respect. I have to treat you equally like everyone else, because if I don't, I play favorites, I lose the team. Please understand, don't take it personally if I yell at you at practice. Now let's go win some championships. Are you ready? Go. But he was just couldn't handle criticism or anything. No. And it's just, and listen, some of them are, the young adults, and some can handle it, some can't. But he should have been in the same breath as Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson. He should have been.
Well, don't you remember him coming into the Sun Bowl after the season? He was like 20 or 30 pounds overweight. He was breaking runs left and right, and he just couldn't finish them. People were catching up to him. But...
Well, he pulled his hamstring, so he had to go.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he pulled his hamstring in that game.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Check the 30 for 30, by the way. So
yes,
but he was like 83 was supposed to be his year, and just couldn't. And then that led to another infamous Oklahoma State game where it was the first game he was gone, and OU makes a big comeback and wins the game. And it was at the time it was the second biggest kick OU's ever made, with that field goal. But Sterling Shepard's dad Derek made a big play, and that was the band wouldn't shut up. And I'm looking forward to becoming the official most annoying fight song in the SEC, along with Rocky Top. I hope we can take that. I want to take that championship away from Tennessee. Who's got the most annoying? I take pride that Boomer Sooner. People say it's the most annoying fight song. I take pride in that. Mm-hmm. I'm the type of person, when I get hyped for game day, I go on YouTube and find Boomer Sooner 10 hours. Just crank it. If there's no one in the house, or when I worked with a radio station down here, I would have to come in for the Saturday midday show, like the lunch show. And I get there early for game day, and there's no one in there. So I go in the little office there, get on the computer, get Boomer Sooner cranked up, and I'll crank it up so I can hear it all throughout the office and go, "Let's go!" Nobody's there, and I'm just getting ready. I'm doing prep for the show. So, but yeah, just Marcus Dupree, who knew what the best that never was is what do they call it? Yeah, the best that ever was. But yeah, he would have won a natty. Like, we probably win a natty in '84 if he's there, more than likely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, we probably beat Washington. We have a running back with all due respect to all the ones that were on the roster.
Yeah. Well, and here's something where you mentioned that as well, and that's kind of the same time frame with it, because Dad, you mentioned how you really like probably at the moment Baker, just because of how energetic he was and how outspoken. What was it like growing up watching Barry Switzer and him being in the moment?
I thought it was great.
How many times you catch him smoking on the sideline?
Oh, all the time. It was and he'd be on his knees smoking too. He did smoke. But I enjoyed Barry. I guess you either liked him or you didn't. I liked him. Of course, we were winning football games. As he said, we were hanging half 100 off of everybody, and then I think it kind of got away from him. He got, I won't say bad press, but some of the bad things that did happen was his downfall.
Now he tried to convince Troy Aikman that he could split time with Jamel Holloway, and Troy still. Well, that was the plan apparently. Like, even if Troy had not gotten hurt, he was still going to give some snaps to Holloway. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just, I want to believe that if they went to a different style offense, because the defense from 85 to 87, statistically, was the best ever. And I think Alabama kind of beat us in recent years, but still from 85 to 87, it was the best ever. And Troy to Keith Jackson, Troy to, Derek Shepard, and maybe you needed a vertical game, a passing game against Miami. Everyone else, you could run all over them, but Miami was too good on defense. Mm-hmm. You couldn't just run the ball on them. And the closest they got was that 88 Orange Bowl. They almost kind of could have potentially pulled it off, but just needed some sort of a passing game. They just didn't have one. Keith Jackson's the only guy you got to cover. You cover Keith Jackson. Mm-hmm. So.
From all the games you watched, Dad, from all the opponents that we faced and everything, the immediate ones that come in mind is Notre Dame and Miami. But is there a certain team that you really wish that we would just go in and just blow the socks off them?
You mean after the game was over or before the game was over?
Both, either or with it. Is there a team that you just absolutely wish OU would just stomp no matter what, even if they had every opportunity?
I wish we could play the Boise State game over again. God. With the Statue of Liberty play that beat us. But
y'all think y'all have no idea. Y'all think it was rough. I was in the Army and I had to go to morning formation the next day or the day after. Uh-huh. It started off, I walked up to formation. People saw me in the distance walking up, and they all saw me, and they're just standing ovation, a mocking standing ovation. I was shut the Because everyone in my unit was a college football fan. I was like Florida, Georgia, Tennessee. Like I was surrounded by SEC people. Texas, and our Texas, he just hooked up arm around my shoulder. It's like tough night last night.
Shit. And the only other one that I wish we could take back to was that second punt to Tyreek Hill, OSU game. Yeah, that he ran back for a touchdown.
I'm planning a video before the season starts. Josh knows this. I'm going to see if I can do it. It's the top 10 plays that OU wish they could take, something along those lines that OU wish could take back. And that's probably gonna be like, I'm trying to keep it like, if this one play doesn't or moment doesn't happen, this happens. It's really hard to. If it's too early in the game, it's hard to like predict, look at a crystal ball, what could have been. But if you don't punt to Tyreek Hill, you win the game.
Right. Well, all he said was, we just want to see if we could get him back deeper. That didn't happen.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Big night.
That was a rough year anyway.
Yeah.
You mentioned, and this came to me off the top of my head. You mentioned Texas a whole lot, Dad. Who do you actually consider OU's true rival, Texas or Nebraska? You've grown up with it. You've grown up with OU and the Seven Dwarves, the Big 12, everything like that.
Back then, it was Nebraska for sure. I think Texas.
You say Texas now or always?
Now, no, I don't know. I still think I still think OSU is a Bedlam series. Is one of our opponents.
Oh, I'm just talking which one's the OU's like main one, because I always hear the debate of whether it's Nebraska or Texas.
This time it was Nebraska, but since they got out of the league and we don't play them anymore, I think it was Texas.
Gotcha.
That's just me.
No, that's fine. I was just curious on it. It just came to me with it. I'm trying to look on our little rundown what else we haven't really talked about. Oh, we can do a little bit of current season. Do you think Rattler's going to win the Heisman?
Who are you asking?
You.
Oh, I don't. I was hoping he would, but I think he will. But you still got to play the season. We'll see what happens.
There's a trick to winning the Heisman, and it's
not winning in September.
Well, no, you can win in September. It's just like because Baker won in September. Remember, like he got a big win in September. But whoever you hear is getting hyped up for the Heisman in September, just ignore it.
Yeah,
that includes Rattler. To be fair, like Rattler is going to get a lot of that. You have to ignore it because it's not going to matter unless you can do it in November.
Right.
Joe Burrow was destined to win the Heisman a couple of years ago because he had the platform, the opponent, and the chance to like just knock everyone's socks off, and he did it. You got to have that game. And for Oklahoma, that game hopefully is Iowa State or Texas. Texas helps as well. Like if you do it against your rival, even if they're not, on par, but you have to have outstanding performances. You got to make a big play that people can circle. You got to have a play. You got to have the stats, and it helps if you have a story too. Mm-hmm. All Heisman voters love quarterbacks from Texas who come from small towns with one stoplight. They love those stories. I'm serious. They love those stories because you're trying to impress newspaper writers and TV guys, like and former winners. Like it's not, but you got to get them excited. So that's how Kyler Murray won the Heisman because a couple things. The almost comeback against Texas helped. Mm-hmm. His performance in the Big 12 championship helped. And believe it or not, Jalen Hurts won Kyler Murray the Heisman that year. He won him the Heisman because Tua was guaranteed to win that thing. Then he got hurt. And I promise you, if Bama had lost that game, I'm almost certain that Tua, despite getting hurt, would probably had a good chance to still win it because, he got hurt. Bama lost. But the fact that Jalen came in and outperformed him, did that, it took away all those votes. And it was very easy to give it to Kyler. Yeah. So circumstances got to fall your way. Like Rattler can throw for 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and, be undefeated. And that will get him to New York. But you got to be careful because there's always the dark horse that nobody thinks about that'll pop up like a Johnny Manziel that will come up out of nowhere, and they will get a big win that no one expects or have a highlight that Lamar Jackson did it. Like Lamar Jackson struggled at the end, but he had some highlight plays that people remember, and that's why he won it.
Do you think OU can stay pumped the whole year in order to do this though?
I think so, because they had media day the other day, and they said this is the only day we're talking about the SEC. For some of the seniors, it's not going to matter, but I really believe there's something to prove. There's a different feel for this team this year than in past years. I really believe there is, Perion Winfrey. He's been criticized that he doesn't turn it on at times to time, but for Perion Winfrey, even though it's college, guys like him they're treating this like a contract here in the NFL. He's trying to I believe Perion Winfrey is going to have a monster year, be a first round pick. In order to do that, they need to. I think whatever game you think is going to sneak up, they're not going to sleep on Kansas State because you don't lose 2 years in a row and sleep on them. That's not going to happen. I think the Baylor game is kind of a trappish kind of game because Dave Aranda keeps me up at night. the way he coaches his D-line, because if anyone screws with that guard tackle counter, it's Dave Aranda, because he did it with LSU in the Peach Bowl. So
what about Iowa State?
Iowa State's the tricky one because everyone assumes that's going to be a big game, and to an extent it will be. But the problem with Iowa State is can they beat Iowa? Can they get to that game undefeated or one loss?
Mm-hmm.
We know Oklahoma's going to get to the end with one loss or undefeated and make the Big 12 championship game. Iowa State returns 20 starters. They return everyone that matters on that team. So there's no excuse for them. I think it's a lot harder for them to do it than Oklahoma, all due respect. And because you never know who's going to jump up and bite them, because it happens to them every year. And now they came up just a little short, won a Fiesta Bowl, best year under Matt Campbell. So now there's expectations. Can they live up to them? We'll see. If they start off strong and they beat Iowa, and if we have if we start having irresistible force, a movable object type of clash near the end, because not only will they play late, they'll play a couple weeks later in Jerry World too. So that's going to be. We'll see if they can do that, but that will help for national title, Heisman, all that stuff.
Okay,
if they can maintain that. You need a game in late November to make it happen.
Yeah. Do you? I think this one can kind of be the final question before we wrap up for it, and we can bring you back on, Dad, to talk about the 2019 number one fan stuff later in the season with it. Since we're already running about almost an hour and 40 minutes.
I can't believe that shirt didn't explode on me when I wore it.
The one that they gave you 3 sizes too
I was
small.
like, there's no way I could wear this shirt. I'll try, but I'm gonna David Banner this thing. If please don't make me angry. You won't like me.
Those people in the stadium really tried their best, though. Mr. Shoes.
Just walking home with the sad piano music with a torn.
From all the games that you've seen, Dad, on TV, listened to them, anything, is there any standout plays, the ones that when you think of OU, this is OU football? This is the things you would point to. Anything specific at all, at least for you?
What do you mean? You lost
favorite plays that happen that just immediately come to mind. So with Sean, I know for him, his is
no spoilers.
Okay.
I like, you can call it what you want, Sooner Magic, or some of those pass plays like the tight end or wasn't a pass play, the tight end reverse to Keith Jackson on the 3rd and 7 from our 10-yard line, and he runs it in for a touchdown, or the big pass play that he ran. That they passed to him that he made a touchdown on. I can't remember the game. It could have been. It was Nebraska, I'm sure.
It was 85 Nebraska.
Was it 85? He runs down the sideline. They just throw the ball, and he runs right underneath of it. Yeah, there's so many plays over the years. It'd just be hard to. to decide.
Pete Jackson's made a lot of those plays. He made a bunch of big plays.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Well, and you mentioned too, some of and Sean mentioned it, like the different traditions. Do you remember them throwing oranges on the field when they were going to the Orange Bowl?
Sure did. Yeah, on the when you're didn't depend on what game you were at. Whether it was the last game, if it was at OU or at one of the other fields, they were throwing the oranges on the field. Yeah, sure did.
Did you ever throw an orange on the field?
Nope. Nope.
67 against Kansas was kind of like a game that historically doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion. I really fell in love with that moment because it doesn't get talked about. That was the year after Jim McKenzie tragically passed away, took over the program, and Chuck Fairbanks was head coach, and Switzer was, he became he was an offensive coach there and all like that. And they pulled together, and if the kicker doesn't have a bad day against Texas, they go undefeated. But go up against Pepper Rogers in Kansas, and Zabel catches a pass from Bobby Warmack and a little play action, and everyone loses their mind. It's a great clip and visual. My play, I think, of OU football is Roy Williams against Texas in 2001.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I am very, very pound the table when I say this. I think that is the greatest play in OU football history. Without
that one or the kick at Ohio State.
The kick is very close, but
yeah,
to me, that one play, what I think of OU football for me, and that play is it, because that was the height of Bob Stoops in his early run at OU. It was the peak. It was against Texas. It was a game where people thought Texas should have won or they were favored.
Yes.
It was just, we don't have too many of those plays that register. That was it's just when it wasn't for a national title. It was we went to the Cotton Bowl against Arkansas that year. But that's the moment where it's it's the commentary from Musburger. It's just it was a knockdown, drag out fight of a football game. And granted, OU it's not technically Sooner magic because they weren't trailing and they would have won. Whatever. It's just, to me, it's that signifies just the passion and the energy, and it's on the short list of all. When people think great plays is on the short list, for me, it's the greatest of all time. And one day I'm going to make my video series building up to it and saying I keep wanting to make that, but it's so much time and effort to put in that.
Sure.
But one day I'm going to do it. One day I'm going to do it.
It'll be the greatest thing ever. Gavin, what place you say this?
There'll be video errors that'll drive me insane that only I notice, and because I'm a stupid artist brain, and it's I hate this.
Okay.
Gavin, what play for you?
Okay, so there's two plays that I have in mind. Okay, and I'm going number 2.
You can only have one.
Can I just say what my second option was, and then I'll get to number 1?
Okay, we'll let you off with a warning this time.
Okay, so the second one, and I was there at this game in 2005, OU versus Tulsa. Of course, it was a down year and everything, but it was basically that Adrian Peterson run on 4th and 1 where Peterson scored that touchdown right there. I was there at that game.
He murdered a few people during that.
Yeah, I saw on that run. Okay, I would say number 1 for me. This was 2002 OU versus Bama. The shovel pass to Ronaldo Works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another Brent Musburger play-by-play.
Yes, and that play right there was, took a lot of guts because we were dominating in that first half, but of course Bama came back in that third quarter and everything, and then that drive in that fourth quarter, and that with that shovel pass Ronaldo Works that led into that touchdown, and of course they and then of course they get the touchdown, and they basically get
Works with his speed, needs a block down the sideline, inside the 10-yard line. Ronaldo Works makes perhaps the biggest play of the game.
Yeah, and
see, I got that one memorized too.
Yeah, of course that led to an OU touchdown. Then of course Bama needed a touchdown to score, and then somehow, wasn't really a tuck rule, but basically quarterback tries to throw the ball, slips out of his hands, and then
Eric Bassey took it back.
Yeah, and sealed the game for OU. But that shovel pass to me, I think, is probably what.
You know what I remember? You don't remember that game? It was like when Kiwan got the go ahead touchdown. But I remember the visual. I remember is like they're celebrating in the south end zone, and in the background on the TV you see the cranes in the background because they're just starting to build the new addition on the east stands. Like they were starting to just build the upper deck, and that's burned in my head. It's like you can see the cranes, the construction over there. So it's just one of those.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Kiwan and Ronaldo, who were both Tulsa guys, by the way. Kiwan with Jinx. Ronaldo was over at BTW at the time, though, too.
Gotta recruit Tulsa, fam.
Yeah, I mean, look, you say what you want, but I kind of go around the area. I keep an eye with some of the Tulsa recruits because it's like one of OU's hotbeds from time to time, though. Especially within the Tulsa area. I do know that, like you said, with Ram being in BA and everything too. So, just seeing a lot of the recruits in that Tulsa area making an impact though too is something I always like to watch and enjoy more than anything.
Yeah. I'll add mine in too because it's not necessarily my all-time favorite because it's like that. It's hard.
But that's what we're asking. Your all-time.
Well, I could compete against anything from the Sugar Bowl, the Roy Williams jump, Baker planting the flag. It's hard to kind of pick those moments and stuff because I also have the moments of I got to see Dames with like dad, so it's hard to pick something out like that as well. Now, that being said,
so you're associating a moment that maybe other people don't like, but it's what you're spending time with your father and it's special to you. Well, you're not. No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. Well, it's just like the moments like with OU Texas or when Landry first played. I remember the rain. It was great, but I was there with him. But there's one that does stick out to me from it was the 2010 Bedlam game, OU versus OSU, James Hanna's, Landry Jones to James Hanna, with the OSU players chasing him.
And Cameron Kenny, the drive before as well.
Yeah, that 90 seconds was absolutely insane.
Yep.
So I think we've gone a little bit over tonight. I think we've done really, really well tonight. So I want to thank Dad for coming on, talking about some of the old days, sharing some of the stories that you usually would never hear. Basically stories from the sidelines and the stands as a fan's perspective. Mm-hmm. We didn't get into the number one fan stuff, so we'll bring you on for another live stream, probably sometime during the middle of the season during an off week.
That's not going to happen again this year either.
Oh, it's not? They said it's not.
I talked to the gal because of COVID. They didn't want to do it and too many people were out.
That makes sense. I mean, they want to make it special for it, and you don't want to have a watered down. Hey, I will say, good thing you got it before COVID.
Well, listen, you tried to create some T-shirt winning dynasty here. You got your little plan, and COVID ruined that.
You're just on a 3-year run at this.
Trying to come up with some sort of Bud Wilkinson win streak with the T-shirt designs.
Exactly. See, Sean's got the right idea. Got the exact right idea. Hey, so, again, I want to thank you.
I really did. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. We'll bring you back on again, like I said, later in the season, talk about the number one fan stuff, and we'll talk about some of the other more stories and everything like that. I also want to give a shout out to one of our viewers. He said he was from Turkey. So you got someone all the way from Turkey. So cool. Got someone neat from that. So I want to thank everybody for coming back on again. Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Gavin, for coming on. I just want to remember everyone, comment, rate, subscribe. I actually now have a goal I want to reach. It is a very bold goal, but I want to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We'll see if I get there, but we'll see. Also, remind people, wear a mask and get vaccinated. Delta is just absolutely rampant, as Sean said, earlier. The ICU beds, depending on where you're at, are either all taken or not. So prefer just wear a mask and everything like that. So y'all have any final thoughts before I shut this broadcast down?
No, I'm going to bed.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. Just get vaccinated. That's all I can say.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for coming back on. We'll be same time next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but I'll announce it when we get there. So thanks for joining me, guys. And Boomer Sooner, have a nice evening.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.